Hi guys, welcome back to Learn with me. This is Commerce with Mac. We're gonna learn part three. This is business studies, Cambridge Order, entire syllabus revision in just 6 months. We have finished in part one few questions, and in part two we have discussed about around 39 questions exactly on the entire syllabus. Then after finishing, they will be starting along with the certain questions, and I'm gonna explain you a few charts and gonna explain you how the syllabus works. So let's move on to the content without wasting our time. Time is very important. You guys are learning. So let's move on. I'm going to start today page number 9 because I finished 4 pages in each content. So this is a ninth page. The question, communication methods in an organization can be listed in your paper 1 or in your paper 2. So when it comes to communication, why telephone mobile is important as an advantage? What do you think it has a disadvantage? Let me read these things and explain you one by one. So these are the ways they can ask what are the internal communication method a company can use and what are the external communication method a company can use again. So if you should be able to understand what type of communication comes under internal and what types of communication comes under external when you're doing this part. And you need to understand that telephone, mobile, letter doesn't come under internal. Telephone comes under sometimes telephone comes under internal and also external mobile. Notice boards comes under internal. Email can be internal as well as external. This text messages internal as well as external. Face-to-face meeting again internal. Yeah, even in in online we can have face-to-face meeting. Then of course it can be external also. Social media, Facebook, WhatsApp group can be internal as well as external. So you need to know what are the advantages and disadvantages they have given. In they might test in your exam. So normally what are the advantages of being a mobile phone? It is one-to-one communication, ensures the messages is received and understood. Message can be passed and quickly. It can be expensive. Mobile may not be switched on. May take time to reach employees. May need to keep trying to contact them. So sometimes it will take a lot of time for you towards contacting them. It will take a lot of time in order to communicate them, but it's very expensive than messages or email. Why is that? It's expensive because you need to incur cost in calling them, but it's a straightforward thing. You can directly speak with them. Again, there's something a problem. These telephones and mobiles doesn't store your message. It is not going to store your message. It's just one-to-one communication. So when you communicate between one-to-one, then of course your emotional feelings can be shared in call. That's a good thing, but the bad thing is your message is not stored. So anyone can change your message and say it in a biased way. So it can be wrong when it comes to telephone mobile. Letter is a written record. It's a good thing, but too slow to be received, takes a lot of time. Less tested in exams, and people like write very less because today's rather than letters, people prefer emails. Notice board seen by many staff. It's a cheap method. Don't know if read would not let employees know in time. So actually, if people doesn't read this notice, then they don't know what's the actual message is. They will not have time to read the notice board. Means things can go wrong. And it's very cheap method. It's very easy to see show the message towards the staff. Every company will have a notice board to ensure that everyone is getting the message. An email, cheap to send, fast way to send message, can be sent to many employees at the same time. It's one email, it can go towards any people, but the problem is it can be complex language. If the language is very complex and another person who is reading this message cannot understand that, everything can go wrong. So don't know if read unless asked for a reply. There may not be an internet connection. Message fail to send. So if you cannot send the message, or the person who is reading that cannot understand and he don't know the reply, things can go worse in an organization. So text messages are very fast to send. Quick reply often gain. So you can gain reply very soon as possible. But what is that message fail to send if no network coverage? Employee may not have a mobile telephone. So you will not have a mobile telephone. You will not receive the message. That's another problem. Today everyone has a message in a mobile telephone, but still students use this. Most of the time you should use email or telephone mobile or notice board. Those are things which we prefer when it comes to exams. So use those terms. So face-to-face meeting, instant feedback, react quickly to ask employees if they are already to work at that day. Easy to persuade the employer to work later. So you can speak with them directly. You can show your emotions. You can get them the work done. It's very easy. Motivational method too. Takes time to find a person if not at work that day. So normally, if you cannot find, if it is a big organization, you can't find that particular person. Is it there or not? It will take a lot of time. Social media, Facebook groups, WhatsApp group, cheap to send, fast to send, send to many in the group at the same time. So they're saying that it is very easy to send the message and it's very cheap because in the internet you can send a lot of messages than in a normal call, normal message. It takes a bit cost. Don't know if the message has been read, message might fail to send. Again, a certain limitation. This is very straightforward. What you need to know is the internal communication method and external communication method. As I said, telephone comes under internal as well as external. Letter comes under external. Sometimes internal. They can give letters to people when they are giving some sort of promotions. Internal. Notice board always internal. Email can be internal as well as external. Text message internal as well as external. Face-to-face meeting internal as well as external. Social media again internal as well as external. So you can prefer one of these and speak about. Then let's move on to part of first question. This is also there in your Cambridge economics syllabus, but they have given this given few types of economies of scale. What people need to know what is economies of scale. If they ask what's economies of scale in your exam, you need to remember one thing: cost of production is decreasing. Okay, or I can say cost of production decreases. And what is increasing? Revenue of the business. So what people need to understand, one thing you need to know when it comes to cost of production might decrease, but revenue of the business might increase. So it doesn't matter. Actually, economies of scale speaks about your cost might go down, but your revenue might increase. If a thing is making your cost to reduce, and if it is going to increase your revenue, that is what we say economies of scale. In simple terms, you can write what is economies of scale if you ask in an exam. Economies of scale is where the cost of production decreases and the revenue of the business will increase due to certain activities is known as economies of scale. Few things of economies of scale have been given in the question here. Purchasing economies, marketing economies, financial economies, managerial economies, technical economies. And you might wonder what are these type of economies. Let me explain you very short and simply. Purchasing economies comes when you make a purchase, you are purchasing at a lower rate than you were purchasing earlier. Maybe you went to a different supplier, so you purchased at a low cost, then of course your cost of production will decrease. Marketing economies is where when you market, then you advertise, you found very easy substitute who can sell your product at a lower cost, then of course it becomes marketing economies. Financial economies, you are managing the business in a very efficient manner where you are going to give your places on rent if you're not using the building on pandemic time, something like that. So financial economies will save some sort of cash management when you are managing. Managerial economy is about resource allocation. If you are going to allocate 10 computers for 5 people, now you are going to allocate 5 computers for 5 people because you are going to give the best computer for every employee rather than using 2 CPUs and 2 PCs for one employee. So something like that, managerial will also reduce the level of cost. So of course, it becomes increase in revenue. Technical economies using the best technology to bring the best output is what we say technical economies. If you can bring a small if you can bring a small part of technological. So technical economies is about when you bring the new technology. As I said, you can bring the best output of your organization, and it can increase the level of productivity. We say it as technical economies. So I've given you the basic understanding about economies of scale. These are the 5 type of economies of scale you need to remember. So if you can remember these type of economies of scale, it can give you a lot of marks in your exams because these are the parts where students are failing to answer. So moving on to the 42nd question. Let's discuss what is on 42nd question. Identify and explain 2 ways in which break-even information could help always. Now you need to understand one thing. What is break-even point? A break-even point is where the business makes no losses and no profit. So which means they are equal. If your total cost and your total revenue is equal at one point of stage, we say that's break-even point. So here, what you need to understand, a business need to understand how much products they should produce to achieve break-even to cover their cost. So why business need to measure this break-even point? If they can measure the break-even point, they know how much goods they should sell first of all. Then after how much goods they will be able to make it as a revenue. So why do you need to have this information, and how come it will be helpful for you? I'll discuss on this content. So show the expected level of profit or loss. This provides business an understanding how much they should sell to achieve the target set. Help apply for finance. Taking loans will be conveyed to the business and they can show how much they have achieved. So having a break even is to understand how much profit they have made actually. Having a break even will also help the business to achieve to get finance to get loans from business, because if they have achieved more than what they have, what they should achieve, then of course the business partners will be able to give you loan whenever you want. That's what you need to understand. So then we move on to the third question. Identify two advantages of specialization. So identify two advantages of specialization. You need to understand one thing. Specialization means when a person does a particular thing again and again, he can make that particular thing a bit faster, or he can make that particular thing in a bit smarter manner, or he can increase the level of productivity. All this is concerned about specialization. So what is specialization? Specialization is where a person is doing the same thing. Maybe if you're serving in a restaurant as a waiter, you serve for different customers. There might be 10 tables to serve, and all the 10 tables you serve every day. So when you do serve, then you feel like you are quicker in serving, you are good in handling them, and you're good in managing the tables. That's what we say specialization. So if it happens, what will happen when it comes as advantages, increase output of quicker production or increase productivity or higher efficiency, lower unit cost or economies of scale. Workers become expert or more skilled or focus on what they are good at. Improved accuracy or better quality of fewer mistakes or reduce waste. Help improve competitiveness. So you can increase the level of output first thing, increasing productivity, high efficiency. High efficiency means reduction in wastage. So that's what they say, higher efficiency. Then lower unit cost or economies of scale. So you can reduce the level of cost because you are managing it so fast and you can produce it much faster. You can produce more, then of course your cost of production will decrease. Workers become expert or more skilled or focus on what they are good at. They are good in what they are producing. That will increase the level of productivity of the firm. Increase accuracy, they are good in what they are doing, so they will be accurate, very stable on what they are doing. Better quality, fewer mistakes. Less mistakes will have less complaints to the company. It's also a good thing, and also it will reduce the level of wastage in the company. Help improve competitiveness. So if your employee can do something better than the other employees, then of course your competition, your company can outrage than the other companies on the market, because we need to have a good set of employees who can ensure to bring the problems to solve the problem as soon as possible, and also to compete between the other firms. So what is meant by external cost? Impact paid by the rest of the society as a result of business actions. I'll explain you this part as these every question which I'm speaking now, I will go in chart by chart basis in a while, and I'll be explaining. So don't worry that you will learn a lot of things with me in this entire syllabus. This is not just few questions. We are going to go a bit deeper into that. External cost is where when a firm is doing operating, their operation can affect the environment, and these people who are on the environment never did the interaction between the business. For example, now if the company is putting some sort of pollution to the environment, the people are getting affected without not involving with the company's business transaction. So this is what is the external cost. Now, if the company is selling a food drinks, the people who are on that community never bought a food drink, but still they are getting affected by the air pollution, then it becomes external cost. So impact paid by the rest of the society as a result of business activity. Good example can be cigarettes also. These people who are not even using a cigarette will still get harmed because of the external cost on the environment. Then we move on, identify two reasons why markets can become competitive. Why do you think that the markets are very competitive on environment? Number one, they're saying globalization. They are competitive when it comes to different countries. They'll be able to, when it comes to different countries getting together, they will be able to sell their product into a different country. They'll be able to bring their product from a different country to their country. This can increase the level of competitiveness. We say that's globalization. When different countries get together at one point to particularly sell low by, we say it as globalization. Developments in technology such as internet and social media. Today, everyone starts a business easily on internet, but not everyone will be succeeded, because people who invest will become successful. Improvements in transport links. As you are being more competitive, you can improve your level of transport links. And they're asking, and by two reasons why markets can become more competitive if they have good transport links. Like today, you see airplanes are flying, submarines, ships, all these are flying, all these are going on sea, not flying gas. Sorry. So transport links. So all these are being used particularly in order to transport. If that can make the work easier, then of course they will go with good transport links will make them a bit competitive on the market. Lower barriers to entry, government intervention or changes to legal conditions of free trade. So lower barriers means there are no rules and regulations when you are intervening into the market. No one will stop you on doing what you want. You can just succeed the market and you can just enter the market and start selling what you want. And what is the term called free trade? Free trade is where there's no imposition of taxes when you are doing a business transaction. So that's free trade, no tax at that point. You can bring a particular product into the country, just sell it. That's more business enter the market for more products. So if you can enter the new market and if you can sell more products, then of course, I mean more business come into the market, and because of new products are coming, the market will become very competitive. And if I two methods of training that a business might use, I have given about this training methods on one of my playlists on a video. I explain completely what's on the job, off the job, and induction. So I want you to remember what's on the job, off the job, induction clearly. So let's move on to point. You can see my playlist types of training given complete, but I'll just give a small introduction about these three things. On the job training means a person particularly going to work and he's learning the work from an employee inside the company. By seeing a senior colleague's work, he is learning the work, particularly what is good and what is bad. The good thing in on-the-job training, he will learn the job faster. He will be very focused on what he is doing. The bad thing is he might learn the bad habits of the senior employee, and also he will not do the same way what his senior employee is doing. So he will learn all the bad habits, and also his knowledge will be very limited when it comes to on-the-job training. But off-the-job training is where the employee is sent out of the company to get his training. Company feel very expensive, and off-the-job training when the company sends him, he is not available in the company, so company will lose him for a particular time, and the work will be stopped for a particular time. But off-the-job training advantages are he can bring new skills to the company. It can increase the level of productivity. Just remember these points, guys. Induction is where you bring an employee, teach about the whole entire organization, give him a correct understanding what is happening on the environment. So he will be able to get an update what's actually happening on the environment and for whom he should speak in order to get the work done is also a part of induction. So I hope you understood the basic stuff of training. So the good thing of induction, he will know where he is leading towards. He will know what is the company's focus. He will know how to get the work done. But the bad thing is he might also get into the organization culture, some sort of gossips like some sort of bad habits he might be involved because it might be a part of the organization have got up for a lot of decades. Then for seventh question, I can explain to advantage of business of changing is its organizational structure. Now, what is organizational structure? If I draw this in this particular way, let me take you to my whiteboard. If I draw this in this particular way, for example, yeah, I don't know you guys will understand it or not. Let me explain in this way. Okay. I have a structure. I'm from above. Okay. So I'm gonna example take these. Yeah. Take the draw a structure actually, which will suit an organization. Let me start with this. Okay. Now you might see drawing some lines, but actually I'm drawing a hierarchical management. So you guys need to understand. I'm doing something. You need to believe that this chart will be okay in a while. Then yeah, this will be okay in a while. You see that I'm putting so much of lines and I want to make this chart complete. So I'm going to take another layer from here. Okay, I don't know will you understand this or not, but in my way. Okay. But now you see here, I'm going to take my spotlight. There's this guy who is the CEO of the company, Chief Executive Officer. He is sitting here on top of the organization. So he doesn't know what is happening on a company. And there's an employee who is here, employee one. So I'm going to write like employee one, E1, E2 here, E2 and E3, right? And also I'm going to write here maybe manager 1 and M1, M2 and M3. So now I'm going to ask you one thing guys, when you're doing this organized structure speaks about how decision is sent from top to below. So top to bottom, how the message reaches down. So when it comes to organizing structure, How come this employee take the message toward this point? If there's any problem between this connection from here to here, then of course the organization will change its structure. Some organization will ensure that employees should be nearby where they can directly speak to the CEO. So what they will do, they now this is a tall structure you are seeing here, it's a white tall structure. They'll change the structure into a narrow structure. I mean it's a tall structure, they will change it to a wide structure. How do you change it to a wide structure? You see, so everyone and they are reporting directly to the CEO. I'm not good in drawing, guys. So this CEO here. CEO, Chief Executive Officer. So he will be able to directly command the employees very face to face. The good thing of a tall structure, it is where you can get the messages properly to the employee. Somewhat okay, but you can get the work done because there's some supervisors, managers they are to be responsible on getting the work done. Here there will be a good correlation and a motivation between the team. But the bad thing is you will always have so much of suggestion from your employer, so it will take a lot of time for you to get the decision right. Here you can take your decision alone and you don't want to listen to anyone. Well, CEO and you have a lot of people working under you, you don't have time to listen to them. Here you are a small startup company, company, so you can listen to them without any fear. So let's move on to the point we want to discuss now to the question. It says that why do they want to change the organizational structure? Why do they want to change the organizational structure? Could reduce customer complaints, leading to better reputation as fewer levels of hierarchy. So they want to reduce the level of communication. They want to reduce the level of customer complaints, so they improve the level of communication. They will try to keep lower level, less levels of hierarchy. They will directly supervise what the employees are doing. Then increase opportunities for delegation can improve employee motivation, leading to a better productivity. Or managers have more time to focus on other things. So if you can delegate certain work, delegate means giving some good opportunities to employees. If you can delegate the work and get the work done from employees, then of course it will give the managers a time to do what they want. This also organizing structure. There are positions of point they can give to the level employees. So they can take a higher level of responsibility. So that's it when it comes to part 7 MCQ. I'm not MCQ question. What is meant by liquidity? Many people doesn't understand this term. Let me remind you. Ability of a business to pay back its short term or day-to-day debt. So and also in another term, liquidity means it's not liquid, it's not water. Many people understand liquidity means something related to water. No, guys, you are not learning something related to water in business studies. Liquidity means you have enough income to pay your basic. You have enough basic income to pay your basic debts. That's what they say liquidity. Then they have question 49. What is meant by an economic boom? Strong rising level of economic activity or period of time in GDP rising rapidly. I'll explain this in a chart, no worries. But strong rising level of economic activity. They are ensuring that this is the way. Normally, you will learn something called business life cycle. Then you will learn something called boom. Boom is where it's a stage of life cycle. It is where the business has achieved, the economy has achieved the highest number of production, and it is where you see the strong level of economic activity when a period of when GDP rises rapidly. People have confusion what is GDP. So GDP means gross domestic product. So gross domestic product can actually, if your level of production increase within the country, we say that GDP. So GDP means total output what a country produces. So if it increases, then of course it is an economic boom. Then we have the next last question for your content part 3. Identify two factors why which might affect demand for Manisha's product. So they are given certain examples. Now this is the level of demand. You have learned something called determinants of demand in economics in the low level. So I'm reminding the same thing. Why a demand will affect, why a demand will try to improve. These are all past paper based questions that I'm revising at this level with your past papers. I don't want to mention which your past paper, but you can see Manisha's name when you're doing Manisha's sum. You will understand that I have taken directly from the past paper. Without hiding, you let me move on to the point. Fashion and trends can motivate a demand to increase. Demand increase means your demand is shifting to the right. So why does this happen? Fashion and trend, people are actually focused on when Krishna Ronaldo wears a shirt and he shows his action. People love to do the same thing and they will buy what Krishna Ronaldo is wearing. Consumer taste can depend on whatever the consumers like. If the consumer likes something, something more, then of course the demand for the malicious product will increase. Strong stage in economic cycle or change in economic factors, interest rates and taxes. So if interest rates reduces, or if your interest rates are very less, you can, or taxes are very less, people will buy the product more. And level of consumer income, if you have more income, you will buy pizza than eating bread, something like that. Actions of competitors, new products or changes in price. So if they charge a higher price, then of course your demands product might increase, or if your if their price is lower, your price might increase. Complementary goods. What's complementary good? When one price increases, other demand. What does it say? We can take complementary goods as tea and sugar. When sugar prices decreases, demand for the other product will increase. So how come when sugar prices decreases, demand for tea will increase? How is it? Now, for example, I'll take in this way: when tea prices decreases, demand for sugar will increase. Now, let me take, if you if a tea if 1 kilogram of tea powder is $5 for example. I don't know the actual prices, guys. I'm just giving as an example. So $5, 1 kilogram of tea powder. Okay, so 1 kilogram of tea powder is $5. So if 1 kilogram of tea powder is $5, it has gone $3 now. What happens? People will prefer to buy tea a lot, so they will not drink coffee now. They know that it's cheap, so they will give even tea for a person who comes as a beggar. They'll not, can I have something to eat? Then your mother offers, hey, come inside, have some tea, man. It's so cheap. They'll try to give. By that time, you will get to stop because you need to go and buy the sugar. So that's one of the worst things you will encounter. So you need to go and buy the sugar and come and put it in the tea. So the sugar's demand will increase. That's what is complementary good. If your product is sugar or if it is tea, the market rate has decreased, your demand for both the products will increase. So you need to be very careful on that when you're learning. Level effectiveness of advertising. Good advertisement can increase the level of sales and quality of product. If the product is super quality, then of course your product will be pitching the market. So I'm going to explain you now from this point on. I'm going to explain you in all videos. You don't know what I'm going to teach in the future. You might see this. I'm on page number 11. In page number 12, this video will come to an end. So most probably I'm going to speak about a few things on this business growth. I'm going to speak about introduction to business. I'm going to speak about business organization and the business cycle. So in next video, I might speak a few more charts on the next channel. Let's see what's introduction to business. One by one chart. As I said, I'm going to give a complete revision of your syllabus. You need to listen every part of it in order to get a good understanding what you are doing. So these videos will actually increase the level of knowledge what you actually want to, and it will really boost your knowledge in the paper what you're going to do. So introduction to business. Normally people have unlimited human wants. Wants means it's something which you cannot satisfy. It is more than a need. So a person needs a phone to communicate. It is a need, but a moment the person wants a Apple phone to communicate, it's a want, because people's need is communication. Want is Apple or Micromax or Huawei, something like that. The economic problem is caused by the scarcity of resources, factors of production compared to human wants. So people's wants might not be limited, but the resources are very limited. With a limited resource, you can't satisfy human wants. You can't satisfy human wants, then the problem of economic problem arises. Scarcity, what are the things very limited in the economy? Land, labor, capital, enterprise are factors of production. These are very, very limited. Then they are saying that scarcity results in opportunity cost. When choices are made, next big thing given up is they call the opportunity cost. So when people are deciding, maybe if I'm going to go with a $10 to buy a book or to buy a CD, I might buy a CD rather than a book. Of course, I have a choice to be made with the money I have. Here, opportunity cost comes. So people remember an opportunity cost is where you purchase the product. Maybe if they ask what is the opportunity cost in CD and book, you purchase CD. Some people write CD in exams. So understand that opportunity cost means the foregone best alternative, or the next best alternative foregone. What you foregone? Foregone means what you're not taking. So you are not taking your book. That is the opportunity cost. So if people take CD as an example and they take it as an opportunity cost, so that's completely wrong. When choices are made, the next best thing given up is the called opportunity cost. Then you have, like, they have given factors of production. Land includes all natural resource. The number of people able to work on as labor. Capital means man-made resources and facilitate production. People prefer to take risk while starting business. This is very straightforward answers as land means whatever the natural resource you have, labor, the number of people working, and capital, man-made resource. Now I remind you there's something in capital. Don't there are three ways to write capital. Let me remind you. Now this is in business studies. It's man-made resources such as machines that aid production. So something aid production. In economics, you can say capital as the man-made thing is all known as capital. So it's not aiding the production. So the definition is different than business studies. Then when it comes to accounting, capital they say the investment made by the owner into the business. So again, the capital is different along with the accounting term. So you need to be very careful when you're writing these terms on exam. So you have $10 and want to buy both the DVD and the jacket. If you buy the jacket, the DVD is your opportunity cost. As I said, what to lose is what we say opportunity cost. So I have given you the basic introduction about the business. Now I'm going to move on to the second chart, business growth. Let's see what's business growth. Business growth can happen in two ways. One is internal way, other one is external way. When a business merge in a, I mean, grow in an internal way, they might increase the level of productivity. They can increase the level of training of employees. They can also increase the level of supervision what the employees can increase the level of quality. All these are part of internal growth. Now, what is external growth? You go one step above and you go outside the organization and you do this type of integration, or we say it as you are growing in an outside manner. So I'm going to teach you four types of integration. Let me remind you. I'm going to teach you horizontal integration, vertical forward integration, vertical backward integration. Then I'm going to teach you conglomerate integration. So what is this conglomerate integration? Now they have given a good example. I'm going to give you these four basic definitions for your mind. Just take it down. Then after that you can understand this clearly. So, I mean, a horizontal integration is where you take this example as an example. A phone company purchases another phone company. Both are phone company. These both are in one industry. We said horizontal integration. So, two industries are in same industry, but they are getting acquired. We said as horizontal integration. Then, what is vertical integration? Backward. If you are a chocolate producer, you need to have something to produce something called the raw materials. Raw materials we say is cocoa. So if you want to bring the cocoa to produce chocolate, the person who is supplying the cocoa is known as vertical backward integration. And the person, once you make chocolate, you need to sell it to a different outlet. That outlet is where the retailer is selling your product. Instead of giving the retailer, you will acquire the retailer because that retailer is selling a lot of chocolates. So if you can buy the chocolate seller, you can get the market directly rather than giving him a commission. Then of course it becomes vertical forward integration. And the fourth integration is where conglomerate integration. You have no links between these two companies. A phone industry company is purchasing a slipper company, so there's no interlinks. And when this happens, we say it as what do you say? A conglomerate integration. So here, a guy who is buying a phone will get a slipper free, something like that. So let's move on to the point you want to see. Acme Oil PLC could integrate with other business in the following way. So when you are doing Acme case study, you'll understand this is to be used. So let me start with horizontal integration. Will offer more economies of scale and reduce average cost. Is with the business in the same industry at the same stage of production as the oil PLC. So if they can buy the same industry in the same phase, then of course they can reduce the level of cost and increase the level of economies of scale because both are doing the same particular job. Then the second thing you need to know, vertical integration backward, is the business in the same industry but different stage at production towards the raw material integration with Asia Oil Fields PLC. They are given some sort of example. So they are going to take the people who are supplying the raw materials. We say that the vertical integration backward. When a firm is purchasing the front part of the company, vertical integration forward is with the business in the same industry but towards the consumer integration with Egypt petrol stations PLC. So you spend a lot of time in producing a product, in purchasing a person purchasing a company which is selling your product. So if you can buy that particular company, you don't want to give that commission to them. We say as vertical integration forward. And conglomerate company says that conglomerate integration is also known as diversification. You don't invest in one company, you can invest in different companies. Let me come to diversification point. Keeping that aside, conglomerate integration is with firms in a different industry Integration with Namibia Rings peers. So what conglomerate integration says that? It says that if you are going to invest in a company, you will be getting a return out of the company. How do we get the return out of this conglomerate integration? You know, understand conglomerate integration is where it speaks something like you are investing in a different industry. Now this is Namibia, this is something not related to acne oil, right? So then they have different fields. So if they can have different industries, that's good. Why is that good? Because if acne oil industry goes down, still the company can earn from Namibia. That's what we say diversification. They diversify the products of this demand. Then we move on to chart 3 on page 12, business organization setup types, which can be discussed in your exam. A bit deep into this content. I'm giving a revision that I'm not gonna give you a deep revision. In future, I have a plan to upload your business studies textbook completed. The problem I have, guys, I don't have the new edition. So if you guys are watching this email and if you want me to teach the entire syllabus, if you have the new PDF, new original PDF of your textbook, please send it to me to my email, or you can follow me in my Facebook Commerce with Mac. If you like, you send me the PDF or just comment on the section so I can have a link with you. So I'll be able to upload all the videos related to every chapter which you discuss. So I want you to help as much as possible, guys. Please make me, comment something on the comment section about what I explain. If you really love what I explain and you want more from me, please hit some sort of comments. Then of course I can get you what you want. Type of business organization. There's a small, understanding about what I'm giving, but actually more than this, the syllabus speaks. It speaks about franchise. It speaks about even it speaks about joint venture. So I have spoken about franchise on the first part of video at joint venture. So I'm not going to explain about that. That's the thing. I think you need to completely watch the entire thing to learn what it is. Business organization, sole trader, business owned and operated by one person. Partnership, a business owned by 2 to 20 people. Now you need to understand a sole trader and a partner is somewhat same. We say them as unincorporated companies. Why we say this unincorporated companies? These two people, sole trader, one person, and partners, they don't have a legal entity, and they are what to say? They are. Let me write the two reasons why they become under. They why they become under unincorporated organization. So unincorporated organization speak about two terms. One is what we say. One we said as unincorporated organization. The basic number one we can say it as unlimited liability. So if you are being going through a loss, you need to sell whatever you have owned. That's what is unlimited liability. Number two, we say it as legal separate, or we can say no legal entity. So people need to know this term, guys. What's this? How come this two organizations as known as unincorporated organization, unlimited liability, no legal entity? No legal entity means the owner and the business is the same. So how come it's the same? Now, if you sell some product and if the product goes unsuccessful, the person who consumes the product will complain you and your business. They will not complain your business. They will not catch you. They'll catch you also. But public limited companies and public corporation, private limited companies, these companies doesn't fall under this part. They fall under incorporated organization. They are not unincorporated because they have limited liability. They have legal identity. So legal entity. So if they sell a product, their business will be caught, not the entire part. So if, for example, if I take Tom Cruise or if I take Will Smith, if they sell a particular product and if the product is unsuccessful, they'll not catch Will Smith because he's a brand ambassador, but they'll catch the companies who has sold that product. Like you see, Head and Shoulders, Clear has been marketed by, I think, Head and Shoulders, okay, I don't remember, marketed by Ronaldo. So when Ronaldo is presenting the product, Clear can damage someone's hair. Now, of course, they will not sue Ronaldo, they will sue the company. That's what we say legal entity. So incorporated organization has legal entity. Then we move on to the next part of the content, public limited company. A business now, a sole trader and a partner should have advantages as well as disadvantages. A sole trader will have advantages like he can decide his own profit. He can, choose to open the business whenever he wants. He can close the business whenever he wants. He can shut down the business if he wants. He can start the business if he wants. He can start with the less capital. He can take his own decisions. He don't want to rely on anyone. But the bad thing is less finance, unlimited liability, no legal entity. He can't, take good advice. No skills means your company will become apart. And even if you die, no one is there to take carry your business. Partnership speaks about a business owned by 2 to 20 people. What is partnership? So when 2 to 20 people are really working, you need to understand one thing. That these 2 to 20 people, what they can do actually to keep the business moving on. So what is 2 to 20 people actually like these partners can have good things like advantages. They can share the losses. They can take good decisions. They can take good managerial skills. They can ensure that the business will ever last even if one partner, even if one partner agrees to bring a new partner, they can increase the level of partnership. They also can work together and increase the level of profits what they earn and their finance can be a bit better than the sole traders. The bad thing on partnership is these partners will not be able to bring a new partner because if one partner is reluctant, they can't bring another partner. And profits should be shared. Decisions can take a lot of time. If one partner doesn't agree with the decision, they can't implement. So things can happen. If one partner falls to death, everyone falls to death because it's a partnership. Then we move on to next part, public limited company. In a limited, now you need to understand guys, public limited company, private limited company seems similar, but not similar guys. These are two different organizations, but both comes under private sector. So you all need to know when it comes to a private limited company, it belongs to private sector. Okay. And also when it comes to public limited company, it also belongs to private sector. Right. So now, public limited company, public corporation, and private limited company. Now, let me move on to the point we want to discuss. A public limited company, a business owned by shareholders that can sell shares to the public through the stock exchange. Remember, public limited companies are in private sector. So they are the people who can sell shares to the public, but this type of company cannot sell shares to the public. They can sell shares within the stock exchange, but they can sell only to their family members most of the time. They sell and they don't sell to external parties, not to the public. Stock exchange, very limited people will invest in the company's funds. So that's what it makes private limited company. In a public limited company, private limited company, they won't go deep because this is Cambridge O level. But for remembrance, I'll teach you if you have maximum two directors, you can have private limited company. But here you can have one to unlimited directors, and here unlimited shareholders. Here maximum 50 shareholders you will see through private limited company. The funds you are going to raise is going to be limited in private limited company. A public limited company will have a lot of funds and a lot of owners. Very less funds but less limited owners. Public corporation, a business owned and controlled by the state, also known as nationalized industry. Public corporations are in the public sector. Now you need to understand some people get confused between public limited company and public corporation. Public limited corporation, public corporation belongs to public sector. Public limited company belongs to private sector. So you need to know that very understandingly because public corporation is owned and funded by government, and this is they are also most of the time focused on earning profits, and they are like competing like public limited companies on the market. A business owned and controlled by the state, also known as national industry, public corporations are in the public sector. Just remember these terms. Again, they will not go deep into these particular areas in the exam. If they are going deeper, I would have said what they should do. So a business cycle looks like this, a trade cycle, the regular upswings and downswings that occur in a country's GDP. You see, when a country is growing, this GDP number of products you produce, number of years it takes, the country goes through growth. Here, the country's inflation rate might increase. Here, the country's people will have enough income. Their income will also increase. Also, people will try to save more. They will spend more. Something like that will happen. But when it comes to boom, you might see the country has achieved the actual growth maximum. So here, people will spend a lot of money on particularly imports. They will spend a lot of money on particularly bringing brand rights from different countries. They will have a lot of money, so they don't know what to do, and actually they will spend a lot of money. They'll not save for the future. Then after some time, when the imports are exceeding your exports, the money is going up, your country can fall down. This is what we say a recession. You fall down for a small period of time, like maybe 6 months of time. We say that's economic recession. When you fall down, your unemployment rates will increase, your living standards will decrease. You can't live the same way as you lived earlier, and also you might feel that the productivity of the country is also decreasing because GDP is decreasing and it takes some time. But then it ever lasts. Now, for example, if there's a war in your country and the natural disaster affect your country so severely, then of course we can't come back again. You stay in a place called slum. So in economic terms, if I say we are in economic decline, but in business terms, we say that slum. Even in economic, you have to start. So you will stay in slum. You will not come back. It will take a lot of time. Now you see here, falling takes very easy. You will fall down, but when you are recovering, it takes a lot of time. Then because you are here, then you fell down, then you need to go to this point. So it takes a lot of time. And actually, you were already. So you will go through again the growth phase. Again, employment opportunities will be there. Job opportunities, multinational companies will invest down, will spend a lot in money in order to increase the level of output in the country. And finally, you will see boom again, where you will feel that the country have enough resources, people are spending properly, people are investing in different funds, and people are investing in different multinational organizations. People are able to get a lot of savings in return. Countries' economy is increasing, infrastructure facilities like roads and highway bridges are getting upgraded. So this is a part business cycle. So I hope I have given you some sort of knowledge in business until now in part three. So I revised to certain areas from the 40th question to business cycle. If you guys do not understand, please do part one, part two, and come to part three. Just follow the order, then of course you can learn everything. In next class, I'll be teaching few more charts, guys. Don't miss out any videos on this because it takes some time for me to upload due to some personal concern. But still, I try to give my best on my channel. Please do not forget to subscribe and learn with me, guys. In order to learn in future, please hit the notification button so you'll be updated. Any videos which I upload to you, you will be able to see it. Whoever studying for Cambridge do already, I have planned to upload videos for A-level laws, but I have limited time to upload for many playlists, guys. Anyway, see you guys on another video. Have a nice day. It's Commerce with Mac. We'll see you on another video, part 4. Bye, guys.